UFC Fight Night 167 on ESPN Plus 25, Rio Rancho Anderson versus Blachowicz 2 took place last night, and it was an amazing card. It wasn't the most stacked card looking at it in the first place, but other than that, it was a fun night of fights. We're going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving our reaction and breakdown of every single fight, starting with Marc De La Rosa versus Raulian Paiva. Raulian Paiva comes back after a bad loss and a couple of losses in the UFC as well at that. Improves his record to 19-3 with a big KO win over Marc De La Rosa. Beautiful shot he landed as well. It's good to see flyweights KO each other because that is a division that doesn't have any hype and has no interest and has never had interest for the longest time. So to see flyweights start to KO each other, it looks good for the flyweight division. Moving on. Big win from Raulian Paiva. I picked him to win as well, so I'm glad that he won. Macy Chiasson is another girl that I picked to win. This is pretty obvious, to be honest with you. Shayna Young was not ready. There's levels to this, as we'll talk about in the main event. Macy Chiasson improves her record to 6-1. She's a 6-1 bantamweight. That's good enough to be ranked in female divisions. So, yeah. Good for her. She won. And she didn't do it too impressively. I was hoping for a bit of a finish out of Macy Chiasson, I'll be honest with you guys. But she didn't seem to provide it for me. And that really did annoy me. Because it went to a long decision that I struggled to sit through and struggled to stay awake during, and I really didn't like it very much. However, good win from Macy Chiasson. Moving on. Kenney versus Merab Dvalishvili. I was looking forward to this fight. Okay? And Kenney opened as the favourite, which was a massive mistake as people soon flipped the odds, and now Dvalishvili was the favourite as soon as Fight Night came around. I like Dvalishvili. I think he's 5-0 in the UFC. I've said this before. I think his 2 losses in the UFC are both bullshit. The split decision he should have won. And the choke that Ricky Simone caught him with was after the bell. So, I think he's 5-0 in the UFC. I think he's an absolute monster. I knew he was going to beat Kenney because his grappling is just too good. He's too strong of a guy at bantamweight and too big of a guy. And Kenney just couldn't keep him off him. Couldn't keep Merab off of him. And Merab just basically khabibed Kenney the entire time. Beautiful performance from Merab. Great performance. Improves to 10-4. In my opinion, he should be 12-2 right now. Either way, great performance. I don't know who I want to see him face next. There's a lot of good names at bantamweight. Maybe we can do a Merab Dvalishvili versus Montel Jackson. That'd be quite fun. Maybe a Merab Dvalishvili versus Song Yadong. That would also be a great fight as well. Maybe a Kenney versus Ricky Simone. There are fights to be talked about here, but that was a good fight. I'm sure Kenney's going to bounce back. He's still got time in his career. Merab just absolutely ragdolled him, though. This was a mismatch from the beginning. Yeah, that was very obviously going to happen. Moving on. Devin Clark takes on Daquan Townsend on short notice and just lays on top of him for 3 rounds. Good job. Daquan Townsend cannot wrestle. We learned that many times now in his career, and he should be cut from the UFC. And it sucks that he should be cut from the UFC, but he should be cut from the UFC. Because that's how it works. If you're not good enough, say hello to Bellator. So Daquan Townsend, in my opinion, should be cut. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, even if he wasn't cut, he's 21-11. That's not a record that we won in the UFC as a young up-and-comer, to be honest with you. So Devin Clark improves to 11-4. A good win. And so continues the 1-win, 1-loss, 1-win, 1-loss strategy for Devin Clark. He's mastered it perfectly. Devin Clark has mastered the art of never moving forward or moving backwards in his career. He's stuck in the same position. We'll see if in his next fight he can pull off a big win. We will see. Jim Miller versus Scott Holtzman. I picked Miller to win. This won fight of the night. It was a great fight. A great fight while it lasted. Fun throughout the entire thing. Both guys throwing hard. Jim Miller secured the first round. Scott Holtzman just edged out Jim Miller in a second and third. That's the youth coming into a consideration as well, and also the less miles on the body for Scott Holtzman. Jim Miller just couldn't take the damage in that third round. You could see he had nothing left. And who can blame him? He's fighting with Lyme's disease. So, you know, I think we can let that one slide. But either way, Jim Miller earned himself a nice little bonus, and Scott Holtzman got a big win. I don't know what's next for either guy. Maybe if Mark Jacasey beats Jai Herbert. Something like that. Or maybe if another lightweight on the card wants to take him on. Who knows? Scott Holtzman gets a big win. John Dodson versus Nathaniel Wood. The one you've all been waiting for. Okay. I didn't see this as a loss for Nathaniel Wood, to be honest with you. Which is why usually I'd be very upset right now if a UK guy lost. Especially an English guy from London, where I'm from. Usually I'd be very upset. But I saw a winner I really did. Like, Nathaniel Wood outpointed John Dodson for 2 rounds, showed that he can hang, and then just got caught and dropped. Didn't get KO'd. Bit of a weird stoppage, okay? We'll go into that as well, but that was a very strange stoppage that they decided to go for. It was one of those stoppages. It was like the Jacare versus Whitaker one. Is a perfect example. The stoppage would have been fine if you'd done it maybe a little bit earlier. You know, if they caught like Nathaniel Wood as he hit the floor, like he looked like he was out, to be fair. Like he switched off, he came back to once he hit the floor. If they just stopped it there and jumped straight in, that would be a decent stoppage. I probably would still have a problem with how quick it was, but either way, it would be a better stoppage. The one time you don't stop a fight is when Nathaniel Wood's getting back to his feet. Like that was just weird to me looking back at it. I don't even have a problem with the stoppage, to be honest with you. It's not like Covington versus Usman where it's a title fight and there's a lot on the line and there's obviously going to be a lot more to gain and lose from the situation. This was a preliminary bout. Nathaniel Wood's unranked. He's young in his career. Who knows, maybe if he did get back up and turn around, John Dodson would crack him with another haymaker and he'd be out cold. And all of a sudden we'd be hoping that it was finished a little bit sooner. That's the problem with stoppages sometimes. But to me, Nathaniel Wood didn't even lose last night. So I'm not even that upset. I think he showed that he can hang. He can beat John Dodson for 2 rounds. He can beat him for the start of the 3rd until he gets headbutted and his eye cut open. And then he kind of got a little bit reckless and paid the ultimate price. He got dropped. Happens in sparring all the time. No big concussive blows. He'll be fine. I think it's a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you, because he's proved that he can hang. He's proved that he can take a shot and get back up and not go completely out cold, which is a good thing to have. Masvidal has that sort of genome in his brain where he never goes completely out cold. He may sink to the canvas, but he bounces right back as soon as he hits it. So I think we learned a lot about Nathaniel Wood. I think we learned that he could hang, and if he wants to take on Ricky Simone next, or maybe Casey Kenney as well. Wait. Maybe Casey Kenney. There you go. Casey Kenney versus Nathaniel Wood. Maybe if Marlon Vera loses his next fight, they can do Nathaniel Wood versus Marlon Vera. Maybe they could do Nathaniel Wood versus Thomas Almeida. That's still a fight that could happen. But for Nathaniel Wood, I think there's benefits in this fight, to be honest with you. There's a lot to learn about recklessness. There is a lot to learn about recklessness because he came out in that 3rd round after his eye got slit open. Little bit angry. Okay? Started trading with Dodson. Paid the ultimate price. Dodson landed 1 good punch the entire night. And that was the punch that landed. Good for Dodson. 1 punch. All night. Dropped Nathaniel Wood. Ref stepped in. Was it a bit early? Yeah. But either way, it's cool. I'm okay with it. Nathaniel Wood won in my eyes. So, good for him. John Dodson, though, gets a big bounce back in his career. Stops himself from going on the slide like many guys are doing right now with Diego Sanchez and BJ Penn, which we'll talk about in a second. John Dodson snaps his losing streak. Gets back in there. We'll see who he takes on next. Maybe John Dodson versus Rob Font. Maybe John Dodson versus Jimmy Rivera. You know? Maybe John Dodson versus Uriah Faber. These are fights that can happen. And fun fights to make. So I'm looking forward to him. But yeah, Nathaniel Wood's only going to get better from that performance. And he's still very young as well. Let me look at the strike differential. Okay, so even with the finish, Nathaniel Wood was way up on strikes and takedowns. Okay, well, yeah, there you go. I think that's a good performance from him. I'm still glad that he didn't get KO'd stiff. You know? So I'm kind of happy. There's a silver lining to the stoppage with Nathaniel Wood versus John Dodson, in my opinion. So let's move on to the next one. Okay? I'm still a little bit hurt, to be honest with you. Tim Means versus Daniel Rodriguez. Picked Tim Means. Means is too okay to take punishment sometimes, I feel. Because throughout his career, he has trusted in his chin. And after Nico Price connected with his chin, you can't trust in your chin anymore, Tim Means. Okay? I think there comes a time in everyone's life when they have that head-first style of having to take shots to give them back, where you kind of have to have that youth. You can't have those miles on your body if that's your style. And in hindsight, should have seen it coming. I didn't rate Daniel Rodriguez. Do I rate him now? Not really. I mean, he was good. He was really good. He caught Tim Means multiple times. Tim Means never recovered. But, you know, I think this was a mixture of 2 different things. This was the young, hungry up-and-comer looking very good. Looking decent. It was also Tim Means maybe this is the beginning of the end because he can't take the punishment anymore. But Daniel Rodriguez was letting go good combinations. Finished it with a front choke as well. Arnold Allen style. I liked it. Daniel Rodriguez, 10-1. We've got a new entertaining face at the welterweight division. Let's give him Diego Lima when Diego Lima's healthy. Or, oh my god, no, we don't do that. There's the guy Chaos that just beat Alex Morono. Tim Means versus Alex Morono. Rodriguez versus Chaos would be stupid business-wise because you'd kill off 2 young, hungry contenders. However, it'd be fun. It really would be fun. So maybe that's the fight they go with next. But who knows? Moving on to the main card. Usually I'd say this is where things get interesting, but actually it does get kind of interesting. But the whole card was an absolute fucking shambles and a circus, let's be real. Moving on to Lando Venata versus Yancy Medeiros. Man of the night, Lando Venata, in my opinion. The performance of the night should go to Lando Venata. I know there was finishes, I know there was domination in certain moments as well, but the man of the night for me, Lando Venata. He put on a clinical performance over Yancy Medeiros, who is a big lightweight. Went 3 rounds as well, showing that he has that in his cardio now. Went there at a little bit of a lesser pace, less spinning wheel kicks, because before he used to throw them every 10 seconds and he'd get out of breath. Showed a much more measured approach, much like Mikkel Pereira. Again, we're going to get to that in a second. But Lando Venata looked very good. I was very impressed with his performance. That was the most clear-cut win I've seen. Just completely picked apart Yancy Medeiros for 3 rounds. And Medeiros ain't no bum. So yeah. 100 strikes to 68. 99 to 68 on significance. Lando Venata's an absolute beast. And we saw that tonight. I think a great fight for him would be Scott Holtzman, who just defeated Jim Miller. Scott Holtzman versus Lando Venata sounds like an amazing fight to me. Let's make it happen. Rodrigo Bontorin versus Ray Borg. I picked Rodrigo Bontorin to win. He lost. Ray Borg completely smushed him for 3 rounds. Rodrigo Bontorin is ripped. Can't defend a takedown. I don't know what he was doing, to be honest with you. Every single stand-up exchange that they had, Bontorin tagged him hard. He tagged Ray Borg hard. Every single stand-up exchange. Won every single stand-up exchange there was to win. And then he just chose to clinch with Ray Borg against the cage. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why in the 3rd round, Bontorin is landing on Ray Borg and then decides to push against him against the cage. You've just been out-wrestled for 2 rounds. Now you want it to happen again? I don't understand. I really don't. And I know people are going to say, you've never been in there. But that seems like fucking common sense. If a guy's just out-wrestled you for 2 rounds, don't wrestle with him. In my opinion. But you know what? I'm just a guy on the sidelines. What do I know? Jesus Christ. Anyway. Rodrigo Bontorin lost. All hype in the flyweight division's dead once more. Anyway. Brok Weaver versus Rodrigo Vargas. There was 2 disqualifications on the main card. Very high up the main card as well. It was a bad night for the UFC. But this one, over the Diego Sanchez one, I really understood. Because he went out. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he got hit by a knee and then they separated it and then he was like, oh, I'm hurt. Like, he got hit by the knee badly and hard as well, and it put him like on fucking Queer Street for a second and he didn't know where he was. So I understand why they would call that one off. I also don't think, even if Brok Weaver said he was okay, which he was saying he's okay, but the referee can't let that continue. Like, when you see a guy get stiffed like that and go on like he doesn't even know where he is, like he goes on a bit of a trip for a second, you can't continue that fight. You got to call it a disqualification. I still think disqualifications should be a no contest. Am I right? Like, a disqualification should not benefit the guy that gets it done to him. You know? Like, a disqualification should be a punishment for the guy that does it, but not a benefit for the guy that does it. Because otherwise you get guys that play the game. And that was the whole thing with the 1 hands down rule and the 2 hands down rule. People just started playing the game, most notably Chris Weidman in the Gegard Mousasi fight. Because the benefit is the person who gets fouled. I don't understand that. It should be a no contest. Both guys get a 1 on their draw record. And we move on. Like nothing happened. And both guys, here you go. Both guys share the win bonus that they would have gotten. So we'll give 75% to each man. And we'll give both of them a no contest. That sounds so right. Why does it go to Brok Weaver? He was losing. Either way, Rodrigo Vargas should know better. The sport's been around for so long. We know the knees on the ground rule. Don't know why he did it. But Brok Weaver got clipped. Unfortunate. We'll see if he can bounce back. But to be honest with you, wasn't the best debut from Brok Weaver. Because seriously, he was very hyped. And he got smushed for the entire round. Just going to say it. So hopefully he can bounce back. We'll see what happens. Maybe they do a rematch. Who knows? They both have similar records. Both now similar fights in the UFC. Let's make a rematch. Who cares? Montana De La Rosa versus Mauro Romero Barella. Montana De La Rosa just dominated for 3 rounds. Out-grappled her. Moving on. I picked her to win. She won. Good job. At least one of the De La Rosas won tonight. Jesus. Anyway. Diego Sanchez versus Mikkel Pereira. Interesting. Very interesting. an absolute circus shit show. I made a live reaction to it on my channel if you want to go check out my last video. Diego Sanchez versus Mikkel Pereira reaction video that I made. It was an absolute shit show. Diego Sanchez, I have no idea how he's good at fighting. Like, I know people are going to talk shit at me again. Like, you haven't been in there, you haven't done this. But you can't be that bad at fighting. Like, I could beat Diego Sanchez. I'm sorry for saying that. I know I'm going to get shit for it. 70% of you guys at home could beat Diego Sanchez. I swear to you that's true. I mean, I'm a big guy as well, so I guess that kind of is a little bit unfair to say I'd beat Diego Sanchez. But maybe another 155-pound man wouldn't beat Diego Sanchez. But even still, this was at welterweight, so 170 pounds. Even still, you don't do this in a fight. You don't run at people. You don't anime run towards someone. It just... I don't get it. What was he doing? It's clear brain damage. There's no strategy. He's going to get killed. Please cut him from the UFC. And the stoppage was bullshit. He knew exactly what he was doing. But well done to him. He got his show money. No one's going to... Well done to him. He got his win bonus. No one's going to care about him once the sport's done. So rightfully so, he should fuck over the fans in the meantime and get his win bonus. Because that's money that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And when he looks back on his career, and if he had fought on and he'd lost... Or if he'd had fought on and it went to a decision and he lost anyway, he'd look back on his career and say, fuck, I wish I took that win bonus. Because I really need the money right now. So whatever. Good for him, I guess. But Diego Sanchez, the days of calling him a warrior and a savage are now done. But he knows that because he's coming to his final fights on his contract. So whatever, man. Good job, Diego Sanchez, I guess. Jesus Christ. This is not a move. This is not a move. He was literally going like this towards Mikkel Pereira. Running towards him. Like, that's not a fight. That's not a move to use. I have no idea what was going on. But Mikkel Pereira looked good. He kept it basic. He picked apart Diego Sanchez for the entire fight. In my opinion, he looks like a winner here. I think they should keep him around, even though he's 0-2 recently. Yeah, keep him around. He won, basically. So, good job to Mikkel Pereira. But still, you're in the back, watching the fights go down, Mikkel Pereira. You watch Rodrigo Vargas KO Brok Weaver with an illegal knee. And you go out there in your fight, and that's not in your brain? That a fight's just been stopped for an illegal knee? That's not in your brain whatsoever. I don't know what's fucking going on with these people. They're all dumb, to be honest with you. Moving on. Coen Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz. There's levels to this. Apparently Coen Anderson's levels right alongside that canvas. Because he got flattened by Jan Blachowicz. Legendary Polish power. Great fight, man. It was decent while it lasted. It was a very... Like, Coen Anderson was getting tagged with some shots coming in, but Coen Anderson was doing a good job just ushering Jan Blachowicz around the cage. As I predicted he would do, I thought he was just going to usher Jan Blachowicz around the cage with feints and then eventually look for the clinch. But when he did look for the clinch, Jan Blachowicz urgently exploded away, which was very good for him. In the long run, that would have been bad. But if he wanted the space in the first round and didn't want to just get smushed, he needed to be urgent against a cage. And he was urgent against a cage. So I'm glad that he was. He got the KO win. Showed Coen Anderson that there's levels to this game. And may have just earned himself a title shot with Jon Jones. And a lot of people are saying Dominic Reyes deserves a rematch. This, that and the other. Please stop. I know he won. Everyone knows he won. Everyone with a brain knows that Dominic Reyes won that fight against Jon Jones. But you know what? He's a challenger. As much as we think he's the champion right now. I'm with you. He's a challenger. They don't get rematches. Gustafsson Jones. Any talk of a rematch? No. Move on. You don't get rematches when you're a challenger. It just doesn't work like that, okay? You may do if there's like a disqualification or some bullshit thing happened. But in terms of a bad decision, Reyes is going to have to fight at least one more time. I think he should take on Thiago Santos. In the meantime, let's just keep Jones in there and fight Jan Blachowicz. And then fuck it. We'll see what happens, man. I don't know. At least we'll have Jones on a card. I'm not sure, man. But right now, with Jan Blachowicz beating Coen Anderson the way he did with that right hook, right as Coen Anderson was throwing an inside leg kick in the pocket in the first round with Jan Blachowicz, like it was just a weird scenario that Coen Anderson put himself in. But I guess, hey, there's levels. Jan Blachowicz is here. Coen Anderson is here. And Johnny Walker's here, apparently. Maybe Jon Jones is up there. And then Dominic Reyes is right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dominic Reyes beat Jon Jones. Either way. Corey Anderson needs to go back to the drawing board. I'm sure he should take on Alexander Rakic next, who's recently coming off a robbery against Ozdemir. Corey Anderson, Alexander Rakic, in the middle of the year. Let Corey Anderson heal himself up a little bit, of course. Maybe around July or August. We'll make that fight happen. And for Jan Blachowicz, he might have just got himself a title shot. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. And there was so much promo, they have to make the fight. There's so much promo of them inside the cage, talking to each other, and Jan Blachowicz screaming at Jon Jones after his KO when he finishes Corey Anderson, who everyone was thinking was going to be the guy to beat Jon Jones if he could get past Blachowicz. It's a great fight. The promo's been set. Let's make that fight between Jon Jones and Jan Blachowicz. You can't say Jon Jones dominates him, because Jon Jones hasn't dominated anyone since head kick in DC, in which fight he lost every single second until the head kick as well. So, you know. Oh yeah, he dominated Anthony Smith. But that's Anthony Smith, so who knows. See you later. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.